attendees already know, I see a live button, so I think that we're live. That we were live with the 101 attendees to begin with. So maybe just to pop back through the list of panelists before we continue, if we can just get a hi from CEO Monica Newton, who's on the panel. Monica, you with us? Hi. Sarah Seethal is the artistic director of the festival. Hello again, Sarah. Nobesuthu Chai is the executive producer of the festival. Nikki Spalding, who was just with us, is the technical director, and Zikona Monaheng is the fringe manager. Last, but always first on my list, is the beautiful Sasha Polke, who is head of communications. Hello team, hello panelists. I'm really looking forward to chatting to you. I know very little about the virtual National Arts Festival, so I'm as curious as our attendees to get a deeper insight into what your plans are. Okay, so let's go to what some of us may know. A few weeks ago, sort of COVID announcement time, a decision was made to go online. It needed to be made early and it needed to be made quickly in order to prepare something like a virtual National Arts Festival, to take this festival, which was launched in 1974 in the Eastern Cape, in then Grahamstown, now Makhanda, online. Since then, since that announcement, since that decision, the team have been on a deep dive into the technical environment, which is where we find ourselves right now. Hi, attendees. They've been exploring the possibilities and limitations of the digital space and have been debating a number of issues around the virtual National Arts Festival. Quite recently, Rusera, artistic director, wrote a really lovely op-ed piece which reminded me of some of my experiences with the festival. There's a kind of running metaphor with the team for the festival being something like a train, and all of the team being engineers on the train and kind of figuring out how to put on the wheels as the train is going. And I think that is very much the case for this virtual National Arts Festival. Nikki, can I get a thumbs up to go ahead with the first round of questions for the panel? Are we good to go?
Absolutely. We have broadcast to everybody in the group the YouTube link, so that you can see this broadcast on the YouTube link. If you know as an attendee that you do not wish to engage in any questions, you can leave the attendee area and go and watch it live streamed on YouTube. We'll also be able to monitor questions coming in on FAQ at nationalartsfestival.co.za, so you can still feed questions live to us, whether you're viewing on YouTube or whether you're an attendee in the room.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Okay, so with that, just to say the structure of this seminar will be something along these lines. I'll have a little chat with the team, ask them to respond to a couple of questions that I've prepared. And then we'll take some questions that have come in ahead of the webinar. And then the idea is really to open up the platform and to take some questions from you, the attendees who have joined us. So please pop those into the chat panel and we'll get to them one by one. We'll try and get through as many of them as possible. The idea was to try and wrap the session by 5. We're already 12 minutes in. So I'm going to move with a little bit of speed and go straight to my first question, which is for you, Monica. CEO, please tell us why the decision to go digital with the festival. It's a two-parter, so why go digital, and how is this virtual National Arts Festival different to your Creativate Digital Arts Festival, which was launched some 2 years ago? Monica.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. So I think that one of the really critical things to recognize is how big an event the National Arts Festival actually is. So for us to think about how we proceed in any given year, there's months and months of planning. Of course, those of the attendees that are with us today who are the artists, you'll know that we had calls for proposals. It's a big machine to think about turning. So as we started to hear more and more about the coronavirus and the spread of the virus, and even before there were cases in the country, there were already concerns in the eventing environment, and we were thinking about, okay, so what happens if it does come? And lo and behold, on the 15th of March, with just over 100 days to go to the live planned festival on the 25th of June, we were faced with the reality that we may not be able to mount the live festival in time. So we sat and we thought about it. And at that point, you're already starting to see cancellations of major local and international events. And obviously one understands that certainly those that were happening at the end of March and in April just didn't have a lot of time to think. So we were one of the ones that were able to just stop for a minute and go, okay, what are our options here? We can cancel, sure. The challenge is nobody really benefits. Artists don't benefit, sponsors don't benefit, donors don't benefit, and certainly the National Arts Festival doesn't benefit either. There was a question about postponing, and that's come up a lot, which is to say, why didn't you just move it to later in the year? Well, it's a huge thing to move. There are about 60 different venues, and we really felt that with the lack of clear indications of how our disaster management protocols would be implemented into the future, the lack of clarity around the school holidays, and then of course those incredibly hot Makanda summers, which I've only experienced a couple of months of, all began to say to us, look, postponing is probably not an option for something as large as the National Arts Festival, which then raised the question to say, if we wanted to continue to do something, because we're a nonprofit company, our mandate is to support the arts, is to support innovation and creativity, what can we do? And so the idea of the virtual National Arts Festival was born. And we've had about just over 4 weeks to stop doing a live festival and to start doing a virtual festival. So there's stuff that we don't know, there's stuff that we're still figuring out, and we're hoping that the questions today will also help us firm up some of those ideas that we've got.
So absolutely, I totally get that. I'd like to share that some element of that's always true for live festivals, as you know, as the team knows. But what I'm really interested in is how this virtual National Arts Festival is differentiating itself from what you've already established in the digital space, which is Creativate. What is virtual festival? What is Creativate?
So thank you very much. So Standard Bank has been our main supporter with Creativate, which was our real effort to kind of reach into an art form in the digital space, digital arts. We'd never really done it before, and the bank kind of came on board and took a bit of a risk with us as we started to curate an element of the National Arts Festival called Creativate, which was focused on digital arts. The Virtual Arts Festival is bigger than just one art form. And that's really where the rubber starts to hit the road, because we've essentially asked artists across all art forms to reimagine themselves in the digital space. And some have been very prompt in responding, some are still working through their ideas. And in essence, we're all still figuring out how this is going to work. So Creativate, supported by Standard Bank, will still be a major showcase of the Virtual National Arts Festival, celebrating the best of local digital art. But the Virtual National Arts Festival continues to be a multidisciplinary celebration of the arts, albeit in the digital domain.
Okay, very good clarification. I get it. Okay, that segues quite neatly to my next question, which is for the artistic director. So Rusera, can you tell us, now going digital, what happens to the main program, to the Fringe, to the Arena, to the Student Theatre Festival, to the Jazz, to all of the other platforms? Do they all go virtual?
Thanks, Ashraf. I mean, yeah, as Monica was saying, we spent many months putting together the National Arts Festival in what at that time was to be its physical form as we know it. So we had been in touch with and we had a pretty much lockdown program across all of these areas that you've mentioned. And moving to the virtual NAF, it was essential for us to offer this space of the Virtual National Arts Festival to the artists who we already had been in contact with, who we had already planned to program for the festival. So in that sense, the artists who we were in communication with, who would have been in these various sections of the festival, we still have opened up the space for them to come into the virtual NAF from their different disciplines. However, the virtual NAF is not going to be presented with these separate parts of the festival. I think we have to understand that going into the virtual space is really a very big leap, and it's a reconfiguration totally of, on many levels. So one, as an audience member, one may not come in and see an arena program or student fest program, but all the artists who would have been in these different areas have been contacted, and we're facilitating their figuring out their path and proposing ideas or work for the virtual NAF.
So if you don't have these sort of different rooms that the festival used to be comprised of, what does this virtual room look like? When I go to the festival program online, what can I expect to see? So
the virtual NAF is, if we're working on our website, and one will find the festival on our website. The main formats for the festival, or what one will see, is essentially a daily program. So this is what we have had before, 11 days of amazing. We're still having 11 days. So when audience members come, they will see day 1, day 2, and there will be different program that exists, or different artistic elements, different works that one can find across each day. Those works, as Monica had said, we're a multidisciplinary festival, so they would come from some music work, some work that is coming from a dance background or theater background, for example, and so your daily program is essentially how you would navigate into the festival.
Okay, swapping to you, Nikki. So these different experiences, online experiences, which Rusera has described, which we can navigate via a daily program. Can you tell us, Nikki, where will these shows and experiences actually be kept? Where will everything be housed?
Well, it's a completely different way of looking at space and how we make content available to people. And so what we're doing is we're looking at housing the program across 2 main portals. The first of that is through our website. We're doing a lot of work reconfiguring our website and looking at how we can use that space to the most effectively and safely for artists, so that we can make sure that copyrights are still protected, that work still exists in a safe space where artists' work and the value of artists' work is still maintained, as well as it being as democratic a space as it can be on the internet, because as we know, the internet is a wild and crazy place. The other space that we are in negotiations for is to be able to broadcast a daily offering on a satellite television channel, which speaks to trying to broaden the reach that we can get, mostly because of South Africa's issues with bandwidth and technology access, so that it does create another scope and another whole pool of people that we can reach who may not necessarily have access to data, but may have access to a satellite television channel. Those discussions are still ongoing. There's still quite a few hurdles that we need to negotiate, but things are looking good. So as we move ahead, we're learning a vast amount, and the speed at which technology is adapting to be able to do what we want it to do and what we need to do is great. So we are actually experiencing vast quantities of techno joy as things become easier to do and more accessible to us that we never thought were possible. So again, it's the same thing of opening up the creative spaces and removing barriers that we thought were there were not. So it's really exciting for us, and hopefully through this we'll be able to open a whole new creative space through it, that allows artists, in the same way that we do here, it allows a space for artists to create the unique things that this country is able to produce.
If anybody can make this happen, it is you, Nikki Spalding. I've watched you reach up to the clouds and bring castles down from the sky. And I think that's the job here. As you know,
it feels a little bit
experience,
like, yeah.
I'm a little bit of a technophobe, so I'm riffing on techno joy. It's a
have
thing.
to have techno joy.
You got to hashtag
we
that,
have
Sasha
an amazing
Polke.
team on it, and I think that as we go, we're going to be learning so many things, and our focus is definitely on the content rather than the framing devices. So we're really investing heavily in the creation of content and making that so much more possible than it's been up until now.
That is amazing in its own way, but it is not without its challenges. At this point, I'd like to bring Nobesuthu into the conversation. Nobesuthu, are you there? I get everything that Nikki is saying, and it's really great for people who do have access or might be able to, get onto a satellite channel. But Nobs, this virtual version of the festival, who is it for? What does it mean for people who don't have access and people who can't find satellite TV or get some kind of bandwidth? Nobesuthu?
First, thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, executive producer, we can hear you. I think we are having some not techno joy, Nikki Spalding.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. You're back.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you need me to reframe the question? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think, first of all, this festival is for our loyal festival audiences that have been part of the festival since its inception, and people who've been coming to the festival for a number of years. And secondly, this festival is for new audiences. It's a great opportunity for us as the National Arts Festival, for people who have never been able to come to the festival because of a number of factors. Whether it's travel.
Please repeat, Nobs. You just broke up there for a second.
Okay. So I was saying this festival is definitely for our loyal festival goers and new patrons as well, people who have never been part of the festival and who have never been able to come to a festival because of a number of factors, be it travel fees or accommodation, and you name it. This festival is also for young people, are those who hear me.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
And also our festival is also for our intercontinental audiences and international audiences. And you are quite correct, Ashraf, when you say, what about the people who are not going to be able to access this because they don't have access to internet and so forth and so on? You are correct in that. Unfortunately, the National Arts Festival is a byproduct of South Africa.
Nobes, I think we must pick up this question in the Q&A at the end of the session. We're having some connectivity issues, ironically. I think I get it. I like
it means we are not going to be, hence.
Sorry, Nobs.
Yes?
Can we pause you for a
Is
second?
the internet not playing?
The internet is not being joyful right now, my friend. Let's pause for a second. We got a lot of the gist of what you were saying. I'm fully in agreement. I love the democratization attitude and aspect of going online that you were talking about. I love that it speaks to your constituents. So I feel asked and answered. But we can dive a little bit deeper into this question when we come to the Q&A. Right now, I'd like to ask Rusera a little bit about this call that is out for people to assist you, to submit ideas. So Rusera, can you tell us a little bit more about this ideas platform, which is live currently?
Yes, so we have an ideas form, you're right, and we called it an ideas form specifically, not an application form, because it is an invitation to artists and creative practitioners to think about how they may engage with this virtual National Arts Festival, how they may consider seeing their work or presenting an idea to us. So it's an ideas form. It's live on our website. It's really short. It's really simple. It's just something like 300 words where artists can put through an idea. Why we made it an ideas form is because it's really a brand new space. We are we're trying out something new. The festival itself in an online space is something new, and just in the 4 weeks, or just under something like 4 weeks that we've had to make this shift. As Nikki was saying, there's just a huge amount that we are learning, that we're trying, that we're researching, investigating. So we understand that artists coming into this space, it's a similar process. It can be daunting, and it's helpful to have conversation, to seek guidance. So the ideas form is a place for the artists to put forward their thoughts. We opened it initially to all, as I was saying earlier, to all the artists who we had already invited onto the festival, so that they can take that step with us into the online space. It is, however, open to anyone. So anyone who would like to think about how they could be on the virtual festival can also put through their thoughts on the idea form. So it's where you have an idea for presenting on the festival that perhaps there is a little bit more thought or input or time that's needed to figure out how. What it may mean to take that idea into an online space. It's also open to people who already work in this place and have existing digital work, digital art, and they can propose that to us. It's also open to people who would like to step forward, who have resources or who have spaces or skills, say in audio recording or editing, for example, to put themselves forward and say, look, we also want to get into the space and see how we can collaborate with artists or offer our skills.
Okay, so Rusera, so there's this form online at the festival website where I can submit an idea. I have an idea, I submit it, and then what happens?
Well, so it's you submit it, it comes through, and it's important to note that it's different from an application form. It's an ideas form. It comes through. We've had really very good response, which is great. We're currently going through the ideas. What we do is we discuss it. So we discuss it amongst ourselves, those who are involved in different aspects of the program, who have connection points to curation of the program. The artistic committee is involved, and of course, particularly to this festival, those who are involved in the technical side and working with Nikki are also involved in having a look at those ideas. We discuss them. We consider their viability in an online space. We consider the artistic proposition. We consider the spectrum of people. We consider if the person was already invited to the festival this year. And all of that is part of the conversation that we have internally that then sets us in a position to then respond to the person who has put through their idea. What it is as we've found through working this out, what it is it's often the starting point of a conversation, because this is a new space. We're working it out. We're figuring it out with the artists. And so we have been having those conversations with artists. So we've been developing our language around this. We've been working with artists, and we're moving towards now finalizing which works, which directions we're going to begin to see in the final picture of the festival.
That sounds really collaborative and open. But what about those artists, Rusera, who are saying that they don't want to create work that will be put online? There is a school of thought out there that thinks there is no point, and that the live experience simply cannot be replaced, that there is no substitute for live interaction. And so what about those artists? Do they just get left behind? What do you say to that?
Well, I must say, to some extent, I agree. There is no substitute for live interaction. I love live performance. So absolutely, I sit with them with the same questions, with the same worries, with the same dilemmas, and it's important. This is really a very, it's a difficult time. It's a complex time, and it's a new position that we've put the festival in, and that we have opened up to the artists. So it's important to have those questions. It's important to have your position as an artist, what your take is. I think what we have seen over the past very short but very long weeks is that there is a lot of uncertainty around the future, and there's a lot of at the same time there's a profound degree of innovation across all sectors, but of course specifically with the arts and entertainment industry. And so these are questions that have to be asked, and I think it's worth continuing those conversations and interrogating them.
For those artists who are keen and want to participate, and can we loop you in here, Nikki, with your background in terms of making magic happen? When an artist is contemplating making a work for this virtual National Arts Festival, in terms of the constraints and the limitations, to give them best shot, the best chance of success, what kinds of things do they need to bear in mind when proposing or thinking about making a work for an online space? What are the things to consider?
Okay. There's so many things. So what always helps, it doesn't matter whether you're making work in a physical space or whether you're making it in an online space, it's the clarity of vision that is going to see you through to a work that makes sense. What we're seeing overwhelmingly is a lot of research which has been ongoing but is now ramped up into user experience, and how sort of going from an audience experience perspective as sort of when you're creating a work to now it's a user experience, and that one has to be aware that you have very little control over how people experience work in an online space. Whereas those of us who have specialized and spent our entire careers working in live performance and in theatre, we are in complete control of the atmosphere of a room. We control the light, we control the sound, we control when things happen and when they don't. And we are very used to taking over someone's complete sensory experience for an hour or for 2 hours, or 3.5 if you're doing all of the Hamlet. But what you don't have when you're creating online work is you don't have complete control of someone's environment and sensory experience of a space. So it is so that your communication of your artistic intent has to be that much clearer in order to achieve your goals. In saying all of that, what I have seen is that production value is obviously very important if what you're presenting is reliant on that. If what you're presenting is reliant on speech, then it is very important that your actors can be heard correctly, and that you're not dealing with lots of background noise, or you can't see faces correctly, or you can't read expression. So those kinds of production values, which are important in a filmic aspect, remain important. But that's not to say that they become the overriding thing that decides whether work is good enough to be presented or not. I think, you know, there are some fantastic pieces that we've seen being proposed that are really very lo-fi, and they work beautifully, and what's there, because the vision is so clear, that it doesn't matter that it's not beautifully lit, or that, you know, it doesn't have studio quality sound. The idea that's there and the concept that is there is absolutely marvelous and beautiful on its own. So I think that's you know, good work shines through no matter what, you know, no matter how you produce it. Good work is good work. Some obviously benefits from others, and some things are more important to another piece. But I'm rambling now. I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, Nikki, I think those are amazing insights. And I think that you really articulate very well why people go to the festival, for amazing production values, for things that they can't see anywhere else. And this is largely, I mean, what's kind of missing from what you're saying is the texture and nuances and surprises that you would normally find on that word, the fringe, that platform. So if I understand correctly from what Rusera has framed, there is no main, there is no fringe. We're not using the old terminology. So I'd like to call Z into the room to tell us a little bit about what of the fringe. If we're not talking about a fringe, what are we talking about, Z?
Thank you, Ashraf. So as Rusera mentioned earlier on, that artists are, or we inviting people to submit their ideas form, but not necessarily meaning that your idea would be considered. So what we are developing at the moment is a platform where we would create a space for artists to monetize their work. And that platform, it would be another element of the virtual National Arts Festival, and it would be on our website. So what we will be doing going forward is we will be writing to the artist and asking them to submit any video or pre-recorded work that they might have, or that they might intend to record. That this platform would not be, it would not be curated of some sort. So it would give a chance to each and every artist out there, whether it's a visual artist or a filmmaker, to put forward their work and then make money while they are not in a position to be in front of a live audience members. So as I said, that we would be sending out some information to the artist, and we'll put it also on our platforms, social media platforms, on how to be part of this platform. And the whole idea is that once you submit your work, the way that you would monetize or make money out of it, it would be that an artist would provide us with a video or a pre-recorded, and then once it's online, an audience member or whoever is on the net, and then they're on our website, they can click on it, and then it will take them to your work, and then there would be how can I call it? You will be able to buy sort of the work. So
kind of like video on demand.
Yes.
So it's festival on demand.
Exactly. So the money that the artist would make from that revenue, depending on how many people have actually clicked on the work itself, they will take home about 90% of the revenue. And
that's a great deal.
Sorry?
That's better than the normal fringe. The usual fringe split is 70-30. So you're upping artists walk away with 90%.
It is, and the reason why we're coming up with all these ideas is that because artists were anticipating to make money during the live or the physical NEF. So with all these tough times that have just popped out, so we are trying to work with them and trying to make sure that there is something that they can earn. And we are here to assist in each and every way that we can. And if anyone has any questions or would like to find out how it's going to work, they must feel free to contact us. And I'm not sure if I'm leaving anything else. But
so the big question, the thing that you're leaving out, Z, is you put out a call at the end of last year for fringe registrations. Now you're saying there's no fringe. People must take their stuff online. What about their money? Where's people's money?
Of course, we will, artists can ask for refunds. We have sent out an email asking them to express whether they would like to get a refund or defer their 2020 application fee to 2021. So we've had some responses.
To 2021, hold the boat. CEO, are we saying that there's a Live in the World festival next year? The National Arts Festival is not going digital forever. It's coming back. Monica?
Indeed. And we're a live events festival company. And we are hoping that we will be able to be back in a bumper edition, celebrating life in the live format in Makhanda in 2021. So Z is absolutely right. We've invited our fringe artists and of course our Village Green crafters and vendors as well to say, look, if you need a refund, please contact us and we'll be processing refunds in May. Alternatively, if you want to hold over your registration until 2021, you're welcome. And in essence, there will be no increase. So you're basically banking your registration for the future festival. There's a lot about the kind of disaster management protocols that may still make it difficult for us to produce work this year, for us to continue with live events this year, but we are hopeful that by June 2021, we'll be back. And if not...
CEO, that's all we want. We just want hope. 46 is going to be live. 45 will be the digital deviation. You mentioned the Village Green, Nikki Spalding. So I'm a crafter and I've registered. Monica and Z have now given me the option of deferring my money, but I want to do something this year. Is there a digital version of the Village Green I can sell my stuff on? And make
so we
put a lot of fringe arts.
No, we're trying to make a home for everyone. What we are developing is a trader listing, so that traders can still be found by members of the public, and members of the public can still find their traders. So an integral part of what we're developing and hopefully one of our legacy ideas and innovations to come out of this festival is a listing for traders. Traders will be able to list on a virtual green, while we won't be an e-commerce platform, we will be able to direct people as to how to find their traders, how to get in touch with where their goods can be sold online. Standard Bank obviously are very behind developing avenues for traders to be able to continue to earn their livelihoods no matter what space they're in. So it's something that we're being very, very careful about, how we make sure that those people who did rely very much on the festival experience as a marketplace can still move into this space with us and still be able to develop a space for them to be able to trade and to be able to create within. So it's very important for us.
In short, it's a yes. There will be a digital.
In short, it's a yes.
So
absolutely.
It seems the whole festival is going digital. There's one thing that can't go digital entirely, though, and this is for you, Sasha Polke. We, I think, trawled around Grahamstown as students, and the big work was always to find your spot on the wall to promote your production. There are no walls in the virtual space, so There is, however, a lot of other noise and clutter. So I'm an artist in the festival. You are looking after the festival as a whole. What is your plan to cut through the noise and the clutter? Sasha.
Yes, well, I think actually in the last few years, we've seen a big move to digitization in terms of all artists marketing. People have been moving away from the cost and also the environmental impact of printing a lot of paper. So I think that this is really just a continuation of that. There have been some extraordinary moves happening on social media. Artists are really gaining a lot of traction, excellent value for their brand as such. And I think that's going to be really key in marketing the festival, is having all of these voices together, sort of pointing in the same direction. It gives artists an opportunity to build through the content that they're going to be putting into the festival. So I think collectively we have a fabulous opportunity to just move that digital space even further. And that's something that we will continue to do ongoingly. I also think that, carry on.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I also think that just generally, we have an opportunity here to curate something really special. The noise that's out there is because there's so much going on in all sorts of places. Whereas with the festival, we're actually, Rusera actually put it quite well. She said that there is no algorithm for artistic intent. And what the festival will be doing is kind of housing that space and holding it and saying, come to this space and see what's in it, which is quite comforting and reassuring in a noisy world.
I love that. There is no algorithm for artistic intent. Hashtag that one, Sasha Polke. There is a pre-prepared question so that we can stay with you for a second, Sasha. Helmo sent through this question ahead of the webinar asking if there will be a virtual equivalent of the queue. And if so, how will it operate? Can you share anything on that front?
Yes, so, the Q almost evolved into the Spotlight, which is a daily newspaper that had two roles. One is to sort of inform people about the festival, and the other is for review purposes. And certainly we are already in talks about independent reviewers coming on board to assist us. But I think what's going to be really important with this festival is that capacity to actually have user reviews, which is going to be great. So people can see shows and they can leave a rating or whatever it may land up being. But it certainly means that actually the people who are experiencing the space will be very much a part of that review process.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think that the panelists have done a really fantastic job in ticking the boxes against most of the pre-prepared questions I have lined up. So I suggest, Nikki and team, that we open it up to the floor. I see that there are quite a few questions being asked. Anne, do you have anything for us? Anne and Lauren, who is on the floor? Okay, while Anne and Lauren work that up, there is a question from Clever, who asks whether the National Arts Festival can give theatre groups localized training and workshops. Nobasutu, do you maybe want to take that one?
I think we lost Nobasutu just momentarily.
Okay. Perhaps, Monica, can you feel that one? Is there capacity to do theatre groups training, localized training, and workshops for theatre groups?
It's one of the things that is such an important feature of the National Arts Festival company, is that we are a year-round company. And so Clever's suggestion of us actually using the skill and capacity and expertise that we have to do this kind of work, I think is very valuable. We are very fortunate to have Distel with us, who run obviously with our help, a national scriptwriting program, and there is a detailed workshop program as part of that. So this is the kind of work that we need to be doing a lot more of. And certainly, I think Clever's point really does speak to the fact that a festival is not just an event. It takes an enormous amount of planning, it takes an enormous amount of work. And so thank you for that suggestion, Clever. Watch this space, we'll be back.
Fantastic. So Leon asks, Leon is one of our webinar attendees. This is a question for Rusera. You mentioned, Rusera, that there is or will be a daily program of activities. Will these activities be available to view at other times than what is or will be advertised after the lockdown? there will not be the opportunity for most people to view the shows they want to see during normal day times. And Leon says he foresees that most people only will be able to access the online NAF after hours. That's a question from Leon Geyer for Rusera. Your thoughts, Rusera?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Leon. So I was explaining that we have this daily program. What that means is that each day of the festival, we will release a set of content, of curated content that would be this daily program. So say it's the first day of festival, day one is released, and now it is available. We are actually still in discussion about precisely what the kind of final picture will be, but what we're looking at is at present is that when that content is made available for our audiences, for the public, it would be available for 11 days. So you have 11 days of programming, each available for 11 days. So and that's what we're considering right now. So there's time for you to get into the program. What we're looking at is in terms of accessing the festival, we would do it through a kind of ticketing process. So an audience member or a viewer would purchase a ticket, which we're looking at very reduced prices, but you purchase a ticket for a day. So you have access to a day. You have 11 days to explore it. You can do it all in one bang. You can take your time over it. You can watch it more than once. So that would be a bit how one gets into your daily packages.
Okay, thank you, Rusera. And now Graham asks, is it anticipated that the film section of the National Arts Festival will be streamed? I think that's perhaps for you still, Rusera.
Yeah, so there's 2 points actually inside that question. The one is around film and genre specifically, and the other is around streaming. So I think it's maybe important to, so I'm going to answer kind of indirectly, but then come back. It's important to say, as we've been having responses to the ideas forum, that in this virtual NAF and this online space, invariably disciplinary borders are being broken, and so there's works that are crossing, and we have a lot more. If one must describe what it is, I would say a lot more interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary work. So in terms of film, we're in conversation with Katrina, who's our artistic committee member around film, and thinking quite precisely how we will include it inside those daily packages. There will be film. With the question around live streaming, it's 11 days of programming. There will be quite a bit of content on each day. So what we're doing generally with all the work that will be on the program is considering if it makes sense to stream or if it doesn't, and it really links to with what Nikki was saying. What is the kind of artistic intent? What does it make sense for this piece? Having said that, for filmmakers, the option is, we're not saying that work is going to be on the website for people to download. There's no downloading, and Nikki can speak more clearly to that if there's a need. But really, there's been a lot of thought behind constructing the website in such a way that work is protected, and that work cannot be, say, extracted or downloaded off the site and distributed freely. So
on that note, sorry to interrupt you, Rusera. It's just, this is a very neat segue to a question from one of our participants. Jessica asks, Jessica's question has slipped away. Jessica asks, why not make use of already developed platforms that allow for paid for viewing and secure content, especially for video content? Seems like a lot of cost and tech admin to be developing this for the National Arts Festival site. Nikki, do you want to tackle that?
Sure. It is a very good question, and obviously that's why 4 weeks into this plan, we're still developing and we're still thinking it through very carefully. Existing platforms, what we found the limitations with the existing platforms to be is that it is very difficult for artists to, one, be able to take the majority of money that is made by those sites from those sites. Those sites exist to make money for themselves. So those platforms have a very distinct business model that works in that platform's favor. There are also 90% of them are based offshore, so that you're dealing in a second or third currency, which again attracts further charges, so that you end up paying the platform and the banking fees to stream your work. What we're looking at doing is creating a platform that specifically speaks to a need that has arisen by South African artists to be able to monetize their content in a way that makes sense for them. Yes, there is tech admin. That is what we do, but we do also see a need for a platform to be created for the arts. And if the National Arts Festival can play some part in developing that and use what we've got and the resources that we've got to create and innovate something new, then we're definitely going to take it with both hands. There isn't a purely South African site. There are many, of course there are many, but there isn't one that exists here that services the South African community.
Okay, we're going to take a couple more questions. One of those is, how will visual arts work? Perhaps you can address that as well, Nikki.
Sure. So it's difficult, obviously. Visual arts exists in a gallery space, as does performance. So it is something that we're looking at very carefully, depending on what the nature of the visual art is. It's obvious, that's an obvious sort of thing. There are some works where we can, yes, of course, we can do a 360-degree gallery tour of a hung space. And that involves work that is already hanging and ready to present. But there is also a very large community of artists that do take part in the National Arts Festival, whose work does need to be seen, and we're integrating that within the same type of portal as the virtual green portal, where artists will be able to link directly to artist websites, or their own online galleries, or they'll be able to create their own online gallery within our platform.
Fantastic, thank you, Nikki. We have quite a detailed question, which I would like to entertain. We have, however, hit our 5 o'clock mark. Given some of our technical challenges, I'm going to ask our attendees for their permission to carry on for just 5 more minutes. We have a really fantastic question from Catty, who asks, are festival organizers in contact with government regarding artists being able to get together in small teams to produce their works? And would participating artists be able to get special permission to hook up under certain conditions? Are there guidelines to work together to produce visual content in the eventuality that we may still face lockdown conditions? Perhaps you can tackle that, CEO.
Thank you, Catty. That's a great question. I mean, obviously, currently what you're seeing in terms of the disaster management protocols is some very strict definitions of what's essential. And as those regulations have been amended over the last couple of days and weeks, so you've seen it slowly lift. And we are hoping, because as Ashraf says, we all need hope, that as we get closer and closer to the end of May, early June, so we will be able to get together in small groups. But certainly, if there is any scope for us to approach government to ask for specific concessions, of course, we will do so. We're very fortunate to have the support of the National Department of Arts and Culture and, of course, Eastern Cape Provincial Government for this particular festival. And we're very grateful for their support, and we may well ask them to throw their weight behind us. But one of the realities that we may have to deal with is the fact that we may not be able to get together in any way. And that's why the curatorial elements of the festival will remain flexible for quite a while. And certainly I see there was a question about the Jazz Festival as well, how the Standard Bank Jazz Festival will be involved. It's obviously a major showcase that's part of the festival. It will be one of the jewels in our crown as always, but it certainly is one of the ones that we'll have to think very carefully about how to do as we get a clearer sense of what the lockdown provisions or disaster management protocols are going to be. So we hang on every word of every speech that starts with my fellow South Africans, along with every other South African at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to take a final question, and then I'm going to give each of the panelists 20 seconds to do a final word, because we're well over time. This is a question from Ishmael, spelt in a very familiar way. So expect a complex question, panelists. While it is fairly easy to standardize fees for people directly, writes Ishmael, in a production, performers, designers, and technicians, how is the festival going to address the issue of royalties, particularly for pre-recorded music that artists, dancers, and singers use in their production, or for writers' royalties, both of which is usually calculated on the size of the venue, the number of seats, multiplied by the number of performances. And given that online presenting of the work means that those same calculations are not controlled, will there be a follow-on seminar for artists on the legalities of using royalty-driven music or texts for online work? I think you need to grapple with this, Rusera.
Actually, I was thinking, I need to call this Ishmael, who's spelling their name a bit strangely, and let's have a chat, actually, because that's a really good question.
Follow-on seminar is a great way to go. Maybe you get the experts in. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't answer your question directly, and it's one that I think we sit with. I think it's a great question. The follow-on seminar, though, is important. It's as I was saying, you know, each day we come across unknown unknowns. We ask questions like this, and it comes up and say, oh, we need to figure this out, actually. And what we have been speaking about already is how we share this knowledge that we are amassing as we go in response to these kind of questions with our audience. So this is from my side, I'm adding it to the list. I don't know if someone else wants to give something a bit more substantial in response.
CEO, if I may, could I take your answer to the last question as your last input? Rusera, may I take this as your last input? And may I call on Nobesuthu, who we haven't seen for a while. Nobesuthu, before we wrap it up, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the participants and anybody in the future who will be watching the live stream, the recorded version of the live stream?
Yes, I think the first thing I want to say is that the internet has not been friendly with me.
Talk to your technical director.
And I'm not happy with that. The second issue is I really want to punt the issue of the reason why we opted for the difficult route as the National Arts Festival, which is going virtual, was primarily because of artists. As an artist myself, when we hit lockdown, we realized that a lot of people are going to be losing income. And the National Arts Festival over the years. Still hear me?
I was CC. You are breaking up. You are breaking up. You are being very passionate, but you are breaking up. We hear you, feel you.
I give up.
At this point, I'd like to just emphasize that we will be answering all of the questions that have been sent in, both before the webinar as well as live during the webinar. We have clearly run out of time. I'm going to try and give the rest of the panelists just a final word. So please look out for the answer to your question on the FAQ section of the festival website. And we will be packaging both this webinar together with the key questions, and we'll be in communication about, and we'll get back to you on all of your questions. Do you want to try and wrap up your thoughts, Nobesuthu, before I hand over to Z? Nobesuthu? No?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go while the bandwidth is good.
Okay. Yes. So the primary reason why this festival was created was knowing that the festival has become one of the income streams of freelancers, of artists in South Africa and abroad. And one of the elements
Sorry, Nobasutu. The data or the connection has let us down.
We want to make any out of this festival. I think you guys get that.
We got the gist of it. Thank you very much. I think that we will give you the opportunity to unpack it a little bit more when we package all of the questions. Z, final word from you.
I would like to urge everyone, especially the artists, to make use of all the platforms that we're trying to come up with. I know it's tough times, and I really feel for my fringe artists that would have been in Makhanda this year. So they must look out for all the details that we will be sending out. And then if they've got any questions or worries or concerns, they must make sure that they contact us. We're here to help, and we'll try our best to do what we can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Z. Sasha, last words for this webinar. I'm sure that there will be many more and other engagements.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the most important thing to remember is that the world is now our oyster. We are able to bring South African and African arts to the global stage online, and it's a really exciting prospect. So I think everyone out there who wants to make some work, it's going to go far. It's going to reach very far.
Awesome. No, awesome is the wrong adjective. I think the correct adjective is amazing. On the amazing note, Nikki Spalding, what do you have to say for yourself? What do you have to say for this virtual National Arts Festival?
I am going to say that yes, that clearly the bandwidth in Makhanda is better than it is in PE, Nobasutu, so you're going to have to come home. And
Nikki, it's locked down.
I know that the industry is everybody is taking a hit and everybody is taking a knock, and the best thing that we can do is to stay alive and be as strong as we can, so that when this does come to an end, we do come out of the other side stronger than we went in, and that's our main aim, is to stay alive and get even stronger.
Hashtags stay safe, hashtag stay alive. I cannot but give the CEO the final word. Monica.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, team. Thank you very much, Ashraf. Thank you to everybody who's joined us for today. I think that this was a first step, and I think we'd be more than happy to have other such sessions. I think the suggestion of having focused sessions on specific issues such as complex issues like royalties and rights, I think is a good one. Please be reassured, everybody who was participating, we will absolutely take your questions seriously. We'll respond to all of them and circulate this information widely. And thank you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for allowing us to steal 10 extra minutes of your day.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you, festival team. Thank you, attendees. Take good care. Over and out.